panelists introduce themselves.
My name is Bill Haas. I am the owner of Haas Performance Consulting out of Tyler, Texas, and I'm also the business manager for NACAT, the North American Council of Automotive Teachers.
Hi, I'm Carl Hutchinson, the owner of Complete Automotive in Springfield, Missouri.
Hi, I'm Matt Shanahan. I'm an instructor at the College DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois.
Rory Perrodin, instructor at MCC Longview, Lee Summit, right local here. I've been there 15 years and 30 some odd in the business.
My name is Ryan Koyman. I'm the director of training for Standard Motor Products. I spent about 20 years as an aftermarket technician, and I've been involved with aftermarket training now for about 10 years as well. So my training career really started here at Vision, so it's good to come full circle here and talk about this.
It's wonderful. First of all, I'd like to thank Vision for this opportunity to take the time out of the conference to provide us this opportunity to see what we can do to close the links between education and industry. We know there's some, I like to use the word disjointed parts there that we need to get together and realign, and we thank them from this opportunity because this is a big part of the program. I also like to thank Scott Brown and iATN for videoing this and making this all possible and archiving it so that some of you that came here may have seen it. Some of our panelists saw it for the first time from last year. So again, big thanks to and Scott Brown at iATN. Now, how many are educators here? How many people do we have from industry? Okay, that's what we're wondering. The other question is, how many students? Did we get any students here? One. Okay. All right. How many of you attended last year's Educator Think Tank? Oh, that's good. Okay, well, what we're talking about is when we ended last year, if you remember, we had set down some objectives that when you left here, we wanted you all to go back and do something positive to help this change start occurring. I'm just curious, anybody out there that went back and has a story to tell us about any changes they may have started rolling in their area? No? Okay. Well, the way the format's going to go, very simply, is I'm going to be asking some questions, reading the questions that are going to be on the screens to the panelists, to direct them to the panelists. We'll get their response, and at that time, we really would like to have you comment, interject anything you would like to add to this, because without you, this isn't going to go very far. We need your input to these gentlemen up here to make this a really worthwhile event. So I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to step off the stage here and get the questions going here. So, first question, what type of educational foundation does industry desire for a technician entering the field? Bill, I'm going to start off with you.
Well, I think a big part of what industry needs today is to know that there's a group of people that are ready to enter the workforce that can come in and produce work. And some of the things that I've been hearing lately that are concerning to me from the industry side that I think we have to address is I continue to hear shop owners talk about people, young people coming in to start their career and needing to pay their dues. And I think that we're long past that. So I think it's important for you as the educators, being that most of the people in this room are educators, to help this industry understand that we're really doing a good job of preparing these people to come in and make positive contributions to the repair shop's business. And this idea that they need to come in and start at an entry-level position, which tends to be low-paying, and this idea that they have to pay their dues, it has to go away. We have to banish that from the industry. Nobody wants to come in. When I talk to students and young people, they're not interested in that. They know that there's opportunities for careers, and they're not interested in coming in and emptying the trash cans and sweeping the floors. And so for industry, we've got to change that thinking of how we came into the industry, and we've got to make sure that the young people coming in that you're training and preparing to come in know that there's a bigger, better opportunity to come in. So I think we have to start there. And, you know, the part of the foundational education is, can they come in and do the work? And I think for the most part they can. But I think when they actually come into the jobs and find out that they're not even being asked to use that skill set and the talents that they've developed in their education, we lose them. They're not going to hang around. So I think we got to start with something like that, Rick.
Carl?
I think I'd like to mirror off of what he said here. As far as the independent service, what do we expect? I don't think we're expecting them to come in and empty trash cans anymore. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure there's some. I'd like to look at more as to how do we bring these students in and mentor them with somebody, put them with somebody, attach them to one of our lead technicians. I really think that's what the independents are looking at, or at least some of the better independents, is who can we marry them to? And I think that's really where we're looking at going with this. The skill sets, do we want them to come in and do drivability work right out of school? No. It's almost an impossibility. A couple of years in school or out of high school, that's a very difficult thing to throw somebody into a late model Cadillac, late model Lincoln, something of that nature. You know, don't even think about some of the European stuff. But you know, to get them in, to mentor them up with somebody, that's what I would like to see happen. They got to come in with some skill sets. They got to come in not just with the ability of some car knowledge, but they got to come in with the idea of they got to be eager to work. They got to want to learn. They got to stuff up, and that's what we're looking for. There's lots of bodies out there, but the people that are looking for technicians, that's what we're looking for, is somebody that's eager, that understands what's going on, willing to work, willing to do the things that need to be done. So that's kind of what we're looking for in our industry. Hopefully that kind of adds to that.
Okay. Matt, how about from the educational side, that question?
Well, I mean, it's my colleagues and I have quite often is what should we be teaching students? Should we stick to, you know, should we have a student that leaves school ready to do lots of brake jobs and lots of tires, or should we teach the students a good foundation of advanced electricity, advanced drivability, and stuff like that? And I think that's kind of the route we're heading now, because you can only do so much repetition in an educational setting. So, you know, for a brakes class, how much repetition can you get until it's time for them to just go into the field and do it? And I do agree with what Bill has to say, because I've seen it firsthand, students that get discouraged because they're working in a shop for low pay, and they're doing, you know, really tough work. They're not doing what they want to do. I see these students with the desire, and it's frustrating because some of these students are some of my best students. I know they're capable of doing the work, but no one's giving them the opportunity. What needs to realize is that it's very tough to go from a graduate of a program to becoming a technician. There's not enough programs in place, or not enough people willing to take those beginner techs. I would have to say that, you know, take your chance on them. They don't have any bad habits yet. Okay, they know them to work well in your facility and stuff like that. So please, you know, try to take your chance on the techs. I think that's one thing that could change that. I would encourage you to partner up with your local community college or high school, and you know, meet the teachers there, meet the instructors there, and see if you can get their recommendation. Because I could tell you right now, I see a handful of students that I would have loved to have had working with me in the shop, and they have a hard time getting a job. So it's very unfortunate. You know that person has the capability. No one's giving them the chance. If you look at most of the job postings today, you know, in industry standards, a lot of people are asking for people with 5 years of experience or 2 years of experience, but it's very rare to find someone, you know, looking for that entry-level tech. And they're capable. They're not going to be the fastest tech in the world. They may need a little bit of help, and they might screw something up every now and then. But I think that if you stick with them, it'll pay off in the long run. So.
Rory?
Yeah, and I would, one of the questions I want to ask the industry folks is soft skills. That was something that was mentioned in last year's, and I don't know that it was ever really addressed to my satisfaction. What are we expecting in soft skills? And I was just going to make a comment after teaching now for the last 20 plus years. When I was a journeyman tech and a shop foreman and a service manager, I know what the expectations were, and I would say that the expectations of my students today have escalated considerably from what they were back when I was a tech. Now you have to know how to use a big hammer and use a scan tool and know when to use which of those tools. But I am interested in the question about soft skills, because that's something that
You want to direct that to Bill and Carl, or you want to go to the audience with that?
either way.
Okay, why don't we go through Ryan, and then we can ask questions of all of them. Ryan brings a different perspective, being formerly very involved in the shop, to now heading the national training program. So I think he kind of gives a blend of both. Good, Ryan.
All right, well, pressure's on, I guess.
Yeah, you got it.
I can agree or disagree with almost everything somebody said here already. I think Carl really hit it on the head with the mentorship program. I think in today's world we need to really grab onto a young guy or lady that wants to get into this field and grow your own. I know some of the shop owners here, one in particular, has really grown their own successful technician. And somebody had to do that with me at some point in my career. And you find that right person with the drive and the sparkle in their eye that really wants to succeed and do something. You invest in that person and help them grow. My previous shop, when I'm at home in West Michigan, I've kind of been able to help backfill my previous position in the shop and work with a couple of young, very talented gentlemen. They're eager to learn. So quite often on a Wednesday morning, I'll show up there at 6:30. These guys will come in, meet me there, and we'll have some Egg McMuffins. As you can tell, I've had my fair share of those since getting out of the field. But we'll discuss something. One week it might be coolant temp sensors. It's kind of mundane, but they might not know about positive or negative coefficient. And so we'll go through that, and we'll scan them, we'll test them, we'll scope them. Next week we're going to talk about mass airflow sensors. Next week we're going to talk about fuel pumps. Next week we'll talk about ignition coils. And so it's just really working and mentoring those, kind of as Carl had said, and get them that type of experience. So it's sharing what we've learned through our careers with that. Back to your question about soft skills, I think that's one of the most important things. Some of the best techs I've worked with grew up as farm boys, if you will, and so we had to break some of those bad habits. You can't fix everything with baler twine and duct tape, but they knew they had the touch for working on machinery, and it's hard to teach that stuff, and so you get them involved. And again, that's where I think kind of back to Matt's point, you got these eager people. They might be book smart at this point, but shops have to take a risk on these people. And I know a lot of successful shops are very hungry right now. My local Ford dealer is even going to all these tech schools and hiring kids at a pretty good pay rate, giving me a company car, all this stuff, just because they know I'm going to lose money for the first 3 years on this guy. But if I invest in him today, hopefully I have a long-lasting relationship with this technician.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Has to be some. There you go. Tim, I'll get it. You stay over there. You're going to get the back, I'm sure.
Is there any kind of issue with hiring students for technicians that are under 21? I know that when I was putting kids to work, and I still run into this sometimes, some of the larger dealerships will not hire a young man or lady that's under 21 because of their insurance. Is that an issue or becoming an issue, or has it been resolved?
A question to me, I guess. You know, I always try to go back to our insurance agent and find out what our liability, what our exposure is first. At this point, I don't know that there's an issue hiring an 18 and above. They fall into those categories that we can cover. But there's some stipulations and things, and really we're not actively looking to hire somebody that's less than 18 years old. I mean, there's a line there that we have to work with. So I'm not sure how to answer that younger than 18, but at this point in time, to my knowledge, 18 and over is fine, and we're able to cover them liability-wise. And they've got a certain maturity level at that point also that we can work with. Right now we're in the process of working through the AS program, and that's doing some odd insurance as to whose insurance covers what, and those are the things that we're working right now with our agents. So, but I encourage anybody that's in the field to get involved with those types of programs if they can. And I think that's the only way we're going to have any technicians of the future here.
The age is the biggest problem. I got 4 phone calls from Firestone 2 weeks ago, the same week. And none of my students are 18 until after they graduate from high school. Well, once they're graduated, I lose track and I can't get them back. I got to get them placed prior to graduation so we can get them in the shop, placed with a mentor, and running it up and going. We're AS school, but the guy from Firestone says can't do anything if they're under 18. I said, we have got to fix that problem. That is the biggest issue that I have with placing high school students is the age problem. I can get them over at Jiffy Lube, and I can get them over at Grease Monkey, but I can't put them in a dealership. I can't put them in a Firestone. I can't put them in a Goodyear. I can't put them in the higher-end shops that those kids need to be at. So my issue is we have got to figure out how to fix that problem. When I started turning wrench before I was driving. And, well, let me back up. Before I had a driver's license. But today, these kids don't turn 18 sometimes till June, July of the summer. And we can't place them. And then we lose track. And if they don't return back as a college, then we lose them. So I think the age is one of the biggest issues that I see in my territory, which is Colorado area. And as a high school teacher, and we're also a community college, once they're in college, I don't have a problem with that. It's losing that student from that high school time.
Rick? So part of my experience has been about this question about the insurance has been, first of all, check with your carrier, okay? So one of the things that I've learned when we've had young people working in the shop, and this goes back to when I had my shop, was if the insurance carrier knew who the individual was and why we had them in a program working in the shop, we could get a waiver. But part of that waiver was contingent on the type of work we had them do. So we had to give the insurance carrier some insurance that they were not out driving cars, for instance, okay? Or the type of equipment that they might be working on. That maybe they wouldn't be setting hoists to raise vehicles off the ground and that type of thing. So to me, I really think it's an individual issue. But I think if the shop believes in what they're doing, they can get their insurance carrier to work with them. If the insurance carrier won't work with them, find a new insurance carrier. You're still the customer. This is important. If this is important enough to us as employers in the industry, we will figure out a way to do this.
As an instructor, part of my job is to get that student placed in the industry. Age is a huge issue. And they're not able to make that change on their insurance policy. So I've got to wait till the kid turns 18 to be able to place that student. And a lot of times I lose.
And I, speaking like to use Firestone as an example and not to pick on Firestone, but if these are corporate Firestone stores, there could be issues besides the insurance because there's probably some Firestone attorney that's looking at the liability issues that we're facing. So it could be beyond just the insurance issue as well.
The issue is, I don't know how we fix it, but if we don't fix it, you're going to lose a lot of good talent if you're at home.
From Metropolitan Community College. I missed that first part, Al Cox. If you look at your AES website, there's supporting documents on there for who you can hire and what age, but the insurance, as long as they don't operate a vehicle, they can do anything in the shop they want. They just can't even drive a car in or out. Somebody else pulls it in, they can set the hoist and do all the operations on the car.
I'm Kevin Labby, and I've been a shop owner for 23 years, technician for 39, and I can tell you that the best technicians that I've ever had were kids that I brought in from a high school program. And I am the president of the advisory board at our local community college, and I advise everybody to get involved because there's some fantastic kids in these programs. And the best techs that I had in the 23 years of being a shop owner were kids that I started with in the high school program, and they worked for me, interned with me during their education process, and then moved to post-secondary and continued working with me. When they come out of the program, when they come out of a post-secondary at that level, these kids are, the last two that went through the program with me came out as absolutely entry level. They could walk into the dealership and they walked in as an A tech. In regards to the age that you brought up, as long as they're involved with the program, if they're in an education program, I've had several of these kids that came into my shop at the age of 16 years old. And the program, as long as they're involved with the school, there is insurance carriers through the school that covers them even when they're in my facility. So as far as an insurance issue, the kids are covered in the event of by the school district. Our school district won't. Your school district won't. Yours won't either. Okay. Ours. Okay.
You know, in New York, we have, through our BOCES high school program, where you can mentor the kid, and the school is really responsible for him. You don't have to pay the kid or anything. But one of the things I just wanted to, since I got the mic, and I'll make a point, you know, one of the big things to get people in this industry, we really need to take the young people and mentor them. Not just go, here, you're working in a shop, and as we heard before, the broom or whatever, that happens in a lot of shops. But give the kid an opportunity. He can't be a drivability guy, but you could show him how to do brakes, and you can show him how to do suspension. And as time goes on, I'm mentoring 3 young guys right now. And in 6 months, they've come a long way because it's a one-on-one type of thing where you're showing them something. And they're using what Rick or the rest of the instructors in here have taught them as they're going through school. Now they're really doing it. Let's face it, you know, looking at a magazine, it's not like doing it, right? That's how we get good at it. When you do it, watch it there. When you do it, that's how these kids really pick it up and get good at it. So mentoring, I think, is a biggie.
Well, and I think that's where the kids come back to the school with questions. Hey, Matt, I was trying to diagnose this car the other day. What do you think about that? So I think as educators, we appreciate an engaged student that's got the questions. You can see the lights coming on. At the end of the day, as an educator, that's the most rewarding part. You know, we have to do it to support our families, sure, but the best part is that person comes up and, you know, you made a difference in my life, or you did something like that. And so that's the joy of, again, mentoring the kid, giving them some of that hands-on experience. And again, you're growing your own. You're bringing up the next generation of them.
My name is Dan Ming. I'm also an instructor at Skyline College. What this situation is that I had a student that's really fantastic, and they went and filled out an application, and nobody would hire him. One reason is because he doesn't have any experience. Not even for lube tech, but I believe in the students. So what I have to do, it went to that dealership, this person, the service manager, I knew, I said, do me a favor. Trust in what I have to say about this technician or students. And he hired him. And after the 90 days, he was fantastic. He called me up and said, hey, Dan, can you give me 10 more like that? I said, well, I'm just barely getting one. But again, in industry, you have to trust our students. Like me, I'm going to tell you my situation. Nobody wanted to hire me. Same situation as that same students that I was talking about. And I have to sell myself. I said, you know, please let me work. If I don't make it in 90 days, fire me. Then I know that I can't do the job. But in industry, you have to trust some of what these students is coming in. You know, you look at yourself. I mean, you think you're good, have a lot of experience. Somebody's got to give you that chance. That's all I have to say. I mean, you know, as much as we teach them, but if you don't hire them and you bring them down to do cleaning up and oil changes and all that, yeah, you're right. Because this is not the industry that I want to do. So again, hopefully the industry would change their mind and help out these students.
I would even want to, you know, I keep hearing this blanket statement like that some students aren't ready to do drivability right out of school. I would not say that all students are ready to do drivability out of school, but I'll tell you that I have it's a small percentage, but I have a percentage of students that out of school you know, they've been working throughout school and stuff. These guys are ready to do drivability and electrical work. And I've actually had the opportunity part-time in the shop. We had one work with me, one of my students. And I had him diagnosing CAN issues, network issues, ABS issues, drivability, electrical. He did it better than some of the people that have been doing this for 20 years. He had a good basic electrical foundation. He had what it takes. He had the brains. So I'd be careful and hesitant to say that a student out of school isn't ready to do drivability work, because you'd be surprised. You could throw a few of them in there, and there's a lot of programs out there that cover a lot of this stuff. So give those guys a chance for even that kind of stuff. When you get a tech, feel them out, see where they're at, and you'd be surprised. You might get 1 in 10 that's just ready to get thrown on a check engine light or a short to ground kind of issue. So I just wanted to make that statement.
I'd like to go along with what Matt's saying, in that a lot of these kids do have that electrical background. They have that foundation. This newer generation gets exposed to this a lot earlier than a lot of us that were in the industry 35, 39 years ago. So it's more of their wheelhouse. And as far as what type of foundation I'd like to see them come out of the program with, that is exactly a very good point, in that everything, systems and subsystems on cars that weren't electrical for decades are now becoming electrical. And if they come out with only a mechanical foundation, then you're very much limited in what they're going to be able to do. And if we give them a good electrical foundation moving forward, it's going to enhance their capabilities and expand their capabilities as to what they can work on going on into the future, because we all know where this industry's going. We can't fix cars without computers today. So I have to agree that electrical foundations are incredibly important.
This is just anecdotal, but I can't help but share this. So in the coaching that I do with repair shops, and the biggest challenge every repair shop has today, finding talent. I need talent. I can go to any shop and have conversations about how I need different talent, more talent. I got a hole to fill. So in the coaching that I do with shops, one of the things that we work on really hard is making sure we find the right talent. How do you find the right talent? When you have a position open and you put an employment ad, what happens? People send resumes or show up wanting to fill out job description or job applications, and what do they tell you? I'm the greatest. I can do that. Well, I need somebody to do electrical work. Yeah, I can do electrical work. I need somebody to do drivability diagnostics. I can do drivability diagnostics. So in the program that I have, in my coaching program, all the applicants have to do an assessment test. What I find really interesting when we do assessments of these people that are applying for these positions is that the younger people that have only been out of school for just a couple years far exceed the results on the assessment test than the seasoned veterans that come in telling us how great they are and all the things they can do. And I think that that's something we have to look at, that is the opportunity we're missing. Is in industry, we're just kind of saying, well, they're not ready yet, or they've just come out of a program. And in reality, if we actually looked at their assessments, they outperform a lot of the veterans in the industry. So it's a huge opportunity out there that we're missing completely.
I think a key word in that statement is foundation. And that's what we should all be teaching, because that's still the strongest part of their whole career. It's that foundation.
Question I would have for industry: are you looking for the talent after graduating from a college program, or are you looking for talent that's would grow the college program? Because, be honest with you, if I can't place a student in a job, he can't afford to go to college. Okay? So if we can get someone working part-time with the mentor, going through a program, whether he's still in high school or in the college, the more they learn from us, be 3 times what they will learn with their mentor. Because as an instructor, I can't duplicate what happens in that shop. ATEF certification thing, and I got to do it this way. Well, what they can learn from a mentor is amazingly more than I can teach them.
Again, from my experience, give me somebody I can brainwash. do it my way, and bring them up before they learn the bad habits,
Right.
teach them and work them through school. I know a couple guys are going through local community college. The instructor can see that you must have let them do this, and
Well, we're really a four-year program, two-year high school, two-year community college. So I have to try to figure out how to keep these kids engaged in between that situation. And that's where my challenge is. And that's what I'm saying. If you're looking for someone that's graduated, we need to place them before that somehow.
I want to attempt to answer a couple of these questions. One of them, are we looking for talent at a young level, or are we looking for them at a post-secondary? I think the industry's looking for talent, period. Okay. The answer that I have for you about placing your younger students into the other places, if they're not involved with your school, if they're not involved in your programs, they don't get my kids. I mean, they need to be.
They would be, we would keep them in the program, they would come back through community college and through our program or whatever. But yeah, they would stay in school.
Well, that's what I'm telling you about I don't want to use Firestone, but that's the example you laid out there was, why would you send somebody over there to them if they're not involved in your program and supporting your program? Are they part of the AES deal, or do they have mentors, those kinds of things? So I think there's your answer to their problem. Their problem is they're not looking far enough ahead. They're wanting technicians now, and they should be growing them.
The guy at the Firestone store would love to hire my guy because he can't find anyone he's gone through some of the other programs. He can't find anybody that's worth a darn, and they're done with Craigslist. So they're looking they're done with Craigslist. They're looking for someone that, like us, that says, yes, this is the kid you want. Well, in his case, he can't pass that age requirement. He's the manager, okay? We need to get up on that higher level and figure out how to filter that through somehow.
Yeah, that's a Firestone thing, or that's their problem.
It's Goodyear, it's
Right.
Independence, it's dealerships, the only one that I don't have any trouble putting in place any kids is Jiffy Lube and Grease Money. Because they'll hire them at 16.
If they need the bodies, they're gonna hire the kids and give them a shot.
Well, that's not happening.
I want to,
Need them that bad.
before we jump on, somebody said something about soft skills, and I kind of thought maybe that was my place to jump in here. We have to teach these soft skills. We have students that come in here, and I don't want to say just students. We have prospective employees come in weekly. They won't look you in the eye. They come in dressed not for an interview. They're telling us they don't want a job, is what they're telling us. They want to fill out an application. They want us to give them a job. But we want them to come in and earn that job. They want us to come in and ask for it. So you have to tell the folks, you're going to have to tell them they're going to have to come in dressed like they want the job.
So are those kids coming out of an automotive program, or they're just some kid coming in off the street?
Both.
We teach soft skills.
I work very closely with our local technical school, and they send us kids down here, and they come in for baseball practice or whatever. I mean, come on. Let's dress for the part. Let's come in, look me in the eye, talk to me where I can hear you. That's what we're looking for. So can they do the job? Who knows? We can't get past the hi, how are you part. So yes, we have to have the soft skills, and they have to be there.
I'm not sure how to say this. I'm really bothered. I'm a writer in this industry. My very first article was on education. The first person I talked to was Bill Haas. It's been in my heart ever since I started. I don't know how we are going to get buy-in from everybody who needs to buy in if we keep pointing fingers. It's not that pointing fingers is invalid, but how do you get them at the table? I was very pleased today to hear Tim and to hear Rick talk about perhaps next year bringing some of the people from the management group that spent all day probably talking about some of these issues, meeting their needs with graduates who can do the jobs they need to have done. That's well and good. But we need all voices. And as I've participated this week and done research on education in general, what the voice I see lacking are the people that run school programs, set curriculum, define policies, define procedures that hamstring many of the people in this room. So I would suggest that going forward, all of us have to do a better job of defining what success is. If we want to align education with industry needs, we need to define where we're going. That's not just us in this room. That's the managers and the owners and the technicians in shops, and it is those very people that set curriculums and standards. And they're not here. So you talked about bringing some of those voices together next year. Get the curriculum people, get the school administrators. Because if they don't buy in, if they don't hear from the people who are going to hire their students, why should they change? Because they're not in the dialogue.
I'll give you an amen for that, brother.
I'd like to also add, I've heard some of you say that your schools will not support work experience or signing off on liability. When I took my first job at a place I was at the longest, which was 25 years, there was a statement in my job description that said, I cannot perform brake work. And they did that primarily out of a liability concern. It's easy for your principal, your department chair, or your president to say no to you, and you pretty much walk away thinking there's nothing you can do about it. But to piggyback on what Bob was saying, I decided to try it from another tact. So I put together a very robust advisory council made up of primarily employers and community business leaders. And we talked about this for about 6 months. And then they, en masse, asked to attend a board meeting. And when they did, they asked why, first of all, I couldn't do brake work. And it evolved into setting up a full job shadowing program where my students would visit a place for 2 to 3 days. It got into work experience for a week or two. Of course, many jobs were generated from that. And they changed their liability concerns because these business owners, which are tough to all of them say no to, approached it from an athletic point of view. You let people go out and beat themselves up on the football field and you're not concerned about liability. Why all of a sudden is it a major issue for visiting an auto mechanics repair facility? And as a result, they met with the liability concern, the parties of insurance companies and so on. And in Michigan, as a result of that, there is now a cooperative liability experience where a student who wants to visit a shop, necessary paperwork, of course, parents sign off on it if they're under 18, and the actual duties that they're going to perform are listed, and I heard some of you mention that, and it works. And as a result of that, many jobs are created. So you're told no, you walk away and think, well, nothing I can do about it, but if you want to be proactive and you feel somewhat secure in your job, that's how I approached it, and it worked.
Okay, I think we have one more. One other, I'm an educator as well as a shop owner, and so one of the things that we did at our school actually came from this educator think tank last year is I've been kind of selfish because I come from the ASA world of independent repairers, and to let those dealers evil, we couldn't do that. Well, my eyes got opened up a little bit. We did that, and we have a lot of our students last year placed into dealerships as well as independent shops, and it has improved our our ability to get the students out there is to open it up to some of the dealers, which I know some are a little hesitant to do sometimes, and it's been very well. I'll tell you, in my shop, I haven't hired somebody outside since I started as a teacher 7 years ago. I hire my students. Of course, I get to pick the best ones. But, and we don't work on, easy cars. We're a Volkswagen Audi European car shop. And we do work on a little bit of everything, but that's primarily what we do. And I'll tell you, I haven't had any problems whatsoever. These students coming out of the classroom, they can do the work, and industry needs to hear that.
Okay, why don't we do, are you good? You sure? Okay. Any more questions? There's a follow-up to this one. Bobby?
Thank you, Rick. I'm Bobby Bassett with the Gates Corporation. I'm on the Auto Care Educational Association committee, and the industry is listening to what you're saying. We've put together a career initiative. In fact, it's being rolled out as we speak, and we look for it to be fully implemented by the end of the year. And when you think about just your students, and you can't get them employed at the local oil change facility, there's a lot more in this industry than just being a tech. You're teaching them, though, that's probably the biggest need that we have right now. But the opportunity here for you're teaching them wonderful base information that will provide them the leg up they need to go anywhere else in this industry. And that's a website up there that will help, that's directed for you, to you, for your parents, for your students, for the counselors, for the educator to really help you direct them somewhere. So just don't think we have to place them in a shop somewhere. If you're having difficulty there, there's a whole industry you can move them into, and you guys are laying that groundwork for them right now. And you're giving them a wonderful leg up on the other competition, because now they'll know. So you know, Broad, I challenge you to think differently, think more out of the box on this than just sticking them in a shop somewhere if you're having difficult time placing them. Thank you.
Okay, let me pull up the follow-up question to that. And it's, and do you see that the change, and we see that, we're kind of addressing this, we're kind of a stalemate here as we've been, the changing, and the question comes up, how quick is change going to occur? George and I were talking before this. In the past, change took lots and lots of years. The way the world's spinning right now, it could happen faster, but we don't get in motion in this next 6 months to a year for this next Vision Educator think tank. We're going to be years behind again. So, I don't know, Tim, do you think we probably address that right there and move on? Says, what is today's shop owner doing to attract and keep new people to their business? I think we can kind of, we've addressed some of those, but can we add attracting them?
To attract them, you're going to have a clean facility. You're going to have a facility that's got a vision, and you're going to have to relay that to your prospective employees. People want to work for somebody that they know is going to be there 4, 5, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. So if you're not, as an owner, as a manager, if you're not projecting that image, you're going to have a very hard time attracting quality people. What's the other part of the question? And keep them.
Yeah.
You got to tie them to your company somehow, some way. You got to have to pay them well out of the box. We've already established that. We can't be paying minimum wage anymore. They're doing a much more important job, let me put it that way. They got their hands in too many things, so you got to pay them what they're worth. You got to tie them to you somehow, some way. What are they going to do for you that they can actually earn more money? They're going to have some kind of a training program. They're going to have some kind of initiative program. What's in it for them? Those things have to be established from us, from the shop owners, managers. That's how we keep our employees. The employees that we have now are going to be the ones that own our business in 20 years, 30 years, whatever that timeline is down the road. So are we tying the better ones to our company? You bet. You have to somehow or another, because you don't want to put this investment in all your employees and then they go to your competitor. So you got to tie your employees to you. They got to like you. They got to enjoy working for you. Some of the stuff's not fun that we ask them. They got to do it with the idea that they know that there's a vision for the facility that they're working at. Hopefully that answered that question.
Okay, Ryan?
I think Carl's spot on with that, and again, it starts, I can only talk about my personal experience and observations, but the facility I worked at was a top-notch, very clean, very professional place, and then we had a really good reputation in the West Michigan community. A lot of the top technicians were knocking on the door looking for a job there as well. Very low employee turnover. They start going, why is he staying there every week? And then, something simple, we do evening training classes now as standard. And when my guys at the shop would go to an evening training seminar, they would show dressed up in a polo shirt or a button-up shirt, kind of like you see a lot of shops here, portraying that professional image out there it goes beyond measure for recruiting other employees. You show up, you all look nice, you're there with the boss, you're all having fun together. I want to work for that guy. Where you start recruiting those good technicians as well. And back to his point, I mean, wages, you can talk about pay all day long, but it's the going above and beyond. Cookout on Friday afternoon, employee benefit packages, and just appreciation, I think. We all feel that in every industry, right?
I have to go right along with professionalism in that we can't expect the customer base, we can't expect anybody to view us as a professional unless we first present ourselves as one. And so I have to go right along with all that. The collared shirts, the look, you've got to project the part of the professional for the public to view us as such. And we've been struggling with that enigma for decades. It goes way back into the 50s when our programs were taking the kids that were dropping out of the other classes or had trouble keeping them in school, so they'd stick them in the automotive technology program, and then they got tagged the grease monkey. And we're way past that, and that's not the industry we are today, and that's not the technician today. So it's what perception's reality. So if we want to be perceived as professionals, we have to present ourselves as such.
Hey, Rick. Tim?
I just want to say I have visited a lot of shops through our internship program, and you guys are the exception. Unfortunately, I don't want to be a downer, but I've gone into a lot of shops that are not very attractive, and they're stuck in the past. And for me to walk a student in there and promise him a future when I know probably that the shop's got a built-in dead date kind of a thing, it's kind of disheartening, And I always wanted to be honest with my students. I didn't want to take them somewhere and say, yeah, this guy's going to, you can go in there and turn his shop around. They may not ever do that. So, I appreciate you guys, the people that come to Vision that are maintaining. It's not the majority out there, and my personal opinion is that's going to change soon. I don't think shops like that can probably survive. So my hope is that we have places to put students that do project the image that we need and also promise a future for them.
I had no idea what to expect from this, but bottom line is that everything's been said so far is spot on. In my unique position, I owned 3 shops at one time. I sold my shops and right now 2 of my shops are owned by former employees of mine that came out of tech school programs. So talk about how to keep them and stuff, I really took care of them. My position now is that because I hired somebody out of that school, I work for that school now, the last 19 years. And I still have my mobile diagnostic business. I go in and out of garages and dealerships all the time, and they tell me they need somebody. I sent them one of my students, which Ryan, you said, I sent one of my students because I was able to fix that car, diagnose that car. It goes there, and we talk about the mentor system, what Bill started off with, you have to have the right mentor. When I send somebody there and try to break them down, I mean, I use George's program about color code and wiring diagrams all the time. Don't touch the vehicle until you color code, you understand it. They go there, oh, we don't do that here. We just start doing this and this and this. So it's, it's not your father's Oldsmobile anymore. You can't just rip in the cars. You got to understand the car. So what I see both sides of the fence. And what we have to do is the mentor's got to be compensated also. He's got to be the right person also. That's the whole thing's about getting the industry together. This is perfect, what I'm hearing, But I see both ends of it.
I'd like to just say, like, a little over 4 years ago, I was looking for a change. I wanted to go from fleet work, and I knew I wanted to go into an independent shop. I wanted to see more vehicles. I wanted to do more of the customer relations kind of thing. And a couple things that I was looking for in a shop when I was going around interviewing. I've always been working on too, so I guess like the clean shop was never number one on my list. But a couple things that I was looking for is how well was the shop equipped. And when you look at our students, they're using state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment in school. They're learning best practices. They're learning the proper way to diagnose cars. And then they wind up in a shop that doesn't supply the right equipment, doesn't supply enough equipment or doesn't maintain their equipment and update their equipment. So I think that shop equipment, something as simple as lighting, proper heat. I think that air conditioning eventually needs to be visited one day. All right, we want panels. It's difficult to look professional when you're sweating on a 110-degree day, and it's difficult to be productive as well. Another thing I was looking at in the shop, and I think this might be controversial, especially to maybe some management people or whatever, but Monday through Friday work week. I had no desire to work on Saturday and Sunday. My doctor doesn't work Saturday, Sunday. Other professionals, professional trades. If I wanted to be an HVAC guy, chances are most of the time, unless I'm doing emergency work, Monday through Friday. I think that the Saturday and Sunday stuff is definitely discouraging. There was plenty of shops that wanted to hire me right away, and I already had a job. I wasn't looking, to move right away. I was waiting for the right opportunity. I had no desire to work Saturday and Sunday. So think about that too. I don't understand all these shops. I would have loved to have worked for them. Oh, well, you'd have to work every other Saturday for 4 hours. What are you really accomplishing in that 4 hours? That, I don't get it. So I pictured most of the stuff I typically did, what's a half day? It's just going to ruin my day, So think about that too when you're thinking about employees.
Okay, let me move on to the next one, and I'm going to save this one in the end because I think this is a good wrap-up question. We have a couple more to get in. And in this case, we're probably going to be going back to Matt and Roy. I said, what do educators need shop owners to know? I think we've been hearing that, but two instructors here, can you kind of, and in the audience too, many of you, go ahead and.
Well, just an anecdotal, I had a student who was just kind of floundering in my class, a little bit older than 18, but didn't seem focused on anything, needed a job pretty bad. One of the shops here in town, he's a member of ASA, took a chance on him, and that kid is a 180-degree turnaround. He is focused in my class now and does a great job. So I think internships from you guys is huge. We cannot expose them to everything that they're going to encounter out in the field. And what you guys do, and I was an ASA for 11 years and had a lot of my students were mentored, and what you guys do is where the rubber meets the road. It's huge for us.
I'd like to add something to that real quick, is that we hear all the time, and I heard this for years, we had a manufacturer program and everybody thinks we're everybody was going. Contrary to that, we put more people in the independent shops than we ever did in the dealerships. We got to get off that mentality, and we're seeing a drop-off in some of the programs. The independent industry is very, very large, and we need to start addressing that more and understand the manufacturer programs enhance our programs. They don't run our programs in most cases.
I'd say just, again, give our students a shot, get them into good positions. Most of my really good students, they really want to work in a shop, and they go to work in a shop, and they get paid poorly. Many of them take pay cuts to get into a repair facility. I don't think someone should go to college and be making just above minimum wage. You go to college to better yourself, to better your career, right? So what a lot of those good students end up doing, I'm talking about the people that you all want working in your shops, or you all want as students, whoever you are, you want working by your side if you're a technician, going to do other things. So a lot of our students will end up transferring to SIU. They stay in the industry, but they're not fixing cars. They'll go down there, they'll get a degree. 2 years later, they're making triple or quadruple what they were making as a tech. Now, these guys still wish they could be techs. I think they'd be happier in their daily routine, but you shouldn't be, be paid in poverty level wages after going to college. So these students get very frustrated with that, or many of them go into other trades. They can easily shift into other trades. They become electricians, HVAC, plumbers, carpenters. All four of those, I just checked, doing some research, all four of those get paid about 25% more, and that's the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And by the way, if you look at carpenters, if you look at electricians, when you think about it, you do an apprenticeship, you become a journeyman, and you're done. What else is there really? It's not changing like our field is. If you look at the education necessary, you do an apprenticeship, and this is based on those Bureau of Labor Statistics. And when you look at automotive there, it's on the job, training for life, basically. We all know that. So, you're expecting these guys to buy tools, to constantly stay educated. There needs to be some incentive there. So unfortunately, I don't know what the solution is. Again, it's easy to point fingers, like the gentleman up here said. But I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing these students run to go get bachelor's degrees and get better jobs, or running to go to different trades, or we're not initially attracting the best students, because if they go to a counselor, hey, I like working with my hands. If a counselor goes to look up what jobs pay well, what jobs have good outlooks, carpenters and electricians actually have better job outlooks over the next 20 years than automotive technicians. There's not really a shortage of technicians. There's a shortage of qualified technicians. Would everyone kind of agree with that? When you send out when I know this from working in a shop, you're looking for a new technician, there's no shortage of applicants, right? But it's kind of scary, the people that come into your shop. When you see them, you're like, these guys are really fixing cars. Remind me to not drive on the road tonight, right? I'm talking about, we want to attract a good tech. So I don't know how to fix it, but I'm just telling you what I see from my students' perspective and fresh industry outlook too.
Well, I think one important thing, like everything in life, you need a plan. If you don't share your vision with them, what are they going to expect down the road? I give someone, when they used to work for me, they get a written type contract of what to expect. If they pass an ASA test, they're going to get $100. They're going to get all the test fees paid. They're going to get paid to go do it. 3 months down the road, they're going to get an evaluation. They're going to make more money. They're going to get health benefits. They're going to get training. They have to see something down the road on paper, that they get a copy and you get a copy. What happens in this industry, we've all seen it. You go work somewhere, and what they told you they were going to give you doesn't happen. And I beg to differ with you, owning 11 different repair shops, and actually 12 now, 12 different repair shops, working Saturdays, or even when I had 7 days a week, as long as your guys work 5 days or even 4 days, I used to have them work when we were open on Sundays. Time for them to go to church, the guys that were on, and work 4 days, 10-hour days, because it's a long day. Guess what? You have to take care of your customer, because the big box stores are opening up. And as a businessman, you have to worry about making money to pay those bills. You want to keep a technician, you want to pay him well, you want to give him a retirement plan and stuff, you need to worry about making money. Not everyone, worries about working the weekend. Some people, their spouse may be a nurse or whatever, they work weekends anyway. They'd rather have Monday off or Tuesday off. So I think what you need to do is share the vision. As the shop owner, they need to know where you're going to send them down the road. What's the plan? And most places don't have a plan, let's face it. Over the years, I was fortunate enough to work for different places and then open my own business up. Most guys don't see that. And I sold a lot of my shops to former employees like you did. Because you know what? You give them a vision, say, hey, you can do this. You could. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So as educators, try to tell them, put them in a good shop, but they have to mentor them. I see this all the time sitting on that high school board. Some guys are real good at mentoring them. At a mentor program, they're going to show them something. Some guys go, oh, yeah, just go over there and do that brake job. Do this. The kid doesn't have the experience to do it. And we all didn't know something at one point, right? We all had to start somewhere. But you got to help someone out so they can get to the next level. I got young guys that didn't program a car, programming cars, no problem. Doing stuff, giving them the shot. And you know what? They love it. They're like a sponge. And, a sponge that's wrung out could absorb stuff. As we get older, we're a wet sponge. Can't get more in the head, especially Bill. He can't get enough in there.
Okay, we're gonna have to pull it back. We're getting close to wrap-up time. I think we need to know is hopefully this is the end of number 2, but not the end of it all. We need to realign, and the next realignment needs to be with all the players, as Bob said, in the room. If we don't do that, we're not going to change as an industry. We have most educators here, few industry people, but until we align everything that way with everybody in the room, that is the next step. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to be beating this up in 15 years. We've got to align education, industry into a cohesive group so we can both prosper. I like to say there's nothing more powerful in this country than a united group. We're not united. We need to get united and start standing up and saying we have the image. We are a viable career. If we don't do that, we're going to just keep beating this in the ground and kids are going to go elsewhere. And I agree with Metz. We're seeing it out our way in California. So many other employers are after our students. And they're after the journeymen too, that they're pulling out and paying them benefits and retirement and six-figure salaries and high thousands, $80,000, $90,000 are pulling them out. And we got to be aware of that. We're not shortage. We're shortage of quality, but we have a lot of people now retiring. The baby boomers are retiring. There's our next void. And we're going to have a real shortage in this country. And as you said earlier, the legislators, the people who make decisions, need to hear this because they can't relate the fact that cars can't get fixed. And when they have to wait longer and longer to get the cars fixed, it's going to get tougher and tougher. George, how are we doing? Okay. We did it. You cut. Okay. I want to thank everybody. I hope what we can get out of this evaluations comments is that you pass this on to ASA. First of all, say thank you, but at the same time, pass it on. We need to go the next step. We have got to get the next step, have a bigger room, have all parties involved, and start making some decisions in this next year, or we're not going to get where we want to be. It's a simple thing. Okay. Good job, guys. I'd like to thank everybody up here for the time, and thank you all for attending. I know it's tough to pass up some of the technical stuff, but I think this is the most viable thing right now for all of us going forward. Thank you.